Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Tina and in today's video, I'm gonna be talking to you guys all about the bulk I just completed and also diving a little bit into the cut I just started. And if you're new here, welcome. I post lots of clothing hauls, nutrition tip videos, form videos for the gym, workout vlogs, lifestyle stuff, etc. So if you find this kind of content helpful, please make sure to subscribe and follow along with me. So let's just dive straight into it. I did a 7-month bulk. I started September of 2023 and the bulk went until early April 2024. Why did I do a bulk? The main reason why I wanted to do a bulk is because I was just about to start working with a new coach. She is someone who I really admired, someone I really wanted to work with for quite a while. So when I finally got in with her, I decided I wanted to do something with her that I'd never done before. I'd spent a lot of the last several years eating around my maintenance, so I was very familiar with how to eat comfortably at maintenance. I also had executed many cuts, aka calorie deficits, on my own before. So again, it's something I was super confident in, but something I'd never really delved into was a bulk/building phase. When I started working with her, I was like, what a perfect opportunity. I have a coach to kind of hold my hand and guide me through this, so let's just try it out. The other main reason I wanted to do a bulk outside of just educating myself and, being more embodied in it, because as a coach, I might be coaching a bulk for clients of my own in the future. I very likely will. So I wanted to just experience it myself. But outside of that educational piece, I also did want to put on a little bit more muscle myself. As I just mentioned, I spent many of the last few years eating at maintenance, training at maintenance, and although I did see some great progress at maintenance, I felt like I was at the point where I'd kind of hit my capacity of how much meaningful muscle growth I could really see at maintenance. I'd been training really hard for a while and noticing that I wasn't really seeing much more growth, especially in the glute area. So I was like, if I really want to take things to the next level in terms of muscle growth, I know that at least a mild calorie surplus is needed. So to set up for the bulk, we started by just having me track at maintenance. When I first started working with this coach, it was like late August. We discovered what my maintenance was and she put me into about like a 10% calorie surplus. It was about like a couple of hundred calories above my maintenance. And just for reference, and don't compare this to yourself, just giving it to you for reference so you like fully understand what I was doing. My maintenance is around like 2,000 to like 22, maybe 23-ish hundred, 2,300 being like kind of leaning into surplus territory. So with that said, my bulk calories were around 23 to 2,500 calories for the entire 7 months. And I say 23 to 2,500 because at the beginning of the bulk, when I first started, it was still kind of like warmer weather here in Vancouver. It was like September, October. So I was going on a lot more walks outside. I just tend to walk a lot more in the nicer months of the year, as most people do. And because I was walking a lot more, I was obviously burning a lot more calories, which is why I was eating closer to 2,500 at the start of my bulk, because that just felt more feasible. Like, I was full at 2,500, but I wasn't feeling like stuffed because I was also burning a lot of calories from all the movement I was getting in the gym and on my walks. But then when winter rolled around, my steps kind of went down quite a bit. I went through some really busy work seasons in my business and I was walking quite a bit less. And because of that, obviously also burning less calories. So 2,500 started to feel like really, really filling. And we started noticing, and I started noticing like I was like putting on a little bit more body fat than I was comfortable with. And I was feeling like really uncomfortably full all the time. So we kind of scaled it down to like 23 to 2,400 calories. So in conclusion, I was eating between 23 and 2,500 throughout the 7 months, kind of like shifting lower towards 2,300 on the months I was walking a little bit less and closer to 2,500 on the months I was walking and moving a little bit more. The result was, as you can see in the photos here on my left, is that I did put on quite a bit of muscle, which I was pretty happy with. Specifically in my legs and in my glutes, I noticed the most amount of muscle growth. I also did obviously put on a little bit of body fat, and this is something that is inevitable when you do a building phase. I noticed it mostly in my lower belly and in my hips, which is where I just genetically tend to put on body fat most easily when I do gain weight. I also noticed feeling so much stronger in the gym on a lot of like my simple basic lifts, even things like bicep curls, lat pull downs, seated cable rows, I was able to lift quite heavier by the time I got towards the later half of my bulk compared to how strong I was at the beginning. So that was also really cool to see. Scale wise, I gained between like 8 to 10-ish pounds throughout the bulk. So I was kind of teetering between like 143 to 146 pounds pre-bulk. That was like what I was basically maintaining at. And then I ended the bulk teetering between 153 and 155, 155 being like my heaviest scale weight that I ended the bulk at. So as I just mentioned, the two main reasons why I did the bulk was A, to educate myself about how to execute a bulk, and B, to help me build more muscle and kind of get out of my muscle growth plateau, if you will. But there was a third thing that came out of bulking for me that I would not have expected. Growing up, when I was a teenager, something I struggled with quite a bit was my body image, specifically this feeling of feeling like I was too big, quote unquote. Genetically speaking, I am a curvier gal. I have bigger legs, bigger hips, a bigger bust. And ever since I hit puberty, I just felt like I was always curvier, but really in my mind, I just felt like I was bigger than all the other girls. I felt like all my friends were super fit and slim and skinny, and it kind of haunted me and stayed with me through a lot of my early teens, late teens, and even into my early 20s. And this is why, in so many ways, weightlifting kind of saved me from this. Because in the early years of my fitness journey, my only real goal in the gym was to become the smallest possible version of myself. All I did in there was just cardio, cardio, cardio. I was scared that weightlifting was going to make me bulky, quote unquote. And I was just so in this state of lack. Like I was not enough. My body was not good enough the way it was. I was kind of working against my genetics and just trying to become the skinniest, smallest possible version of me. And then came weightlifting, and weightlifting shifted me into a trajectory of abundance. I finally started training and working out with the intention to grow, to build muscle, to get stronger. And this was such an amazing shift for me. Not just aesthetically, like my body, but it really helped shift my mindset and help me love me and my genetics and my God-given shape more. I knew that bulking came with the territory of body fat gain. That's just inevitable. You are going to build more muscle, but you are also going to put on some body fat because of the surplus in calories. And this scared me. I was so scared of going back to that version of myself who always felt like she was too big, never felt confident or lean enough in her skin. And I worked so hard to get to a point where I felt lean, strong, healthy, and I was so scared of giving that up. And there was a lot of illogical fears coming up for me, even in the early parts of the bulk when I first started, and clothes started to fit a little bit different. I started feeling a little bit different when I looked in the mirror. And I got really scared. I got really triggered, and I started remembering what that 16-year-old Tina felt like in her skin. But because it was triggering, and because I'm such a different, more mature, grounded version of me now, I spent a lot of time sitting in those uncomfortable feelings in the early stages of the bulk, really like sitting with it, feeling through it, and deciding. Really, it just came down to deciding to still own my body, even though it was getting a little bit bigger again. I still went out for girls' nights. I still wore dresses. I still dressed in ways that made me feel sexy and beautiful. And I fully just owned my body, even though it was gaining weight. It was getting a little bit bigger. I almost feel like the bulk kind of allowed me to like relive what my body was like as a teenager. But this time I got to like go back and love her in that body. Whereas when I was like 16, 17, 18, I felt like I hated her in that body. But this time I got to be in a similar scale weight, gain some body fat, and almost like teach myself to love myself no matter what size I really was. It's like kind of weird. It was like kind of a weird experience I went through, but it was also a really beautiful experience because I feel like I'm coming out of this with so much more confidence and love for myself and less fear around gaining weight. Like if I do, go up or down a few pounds in different seasons of my life, which inevitably most women will, especially if you plan on having a baby at some point, etc. I feel a lot more confident going into those seasons of life in the future, knowing that I can still love myself and be confident in myself, even with a little bit more body fat on me. And this is not me saying that you have to go through a bulking phase to learn how to love yourself. You don't, but that's just something that I experienced as a side effect of going through a bulk. Okay, now I want to spend the rest of the video just going over a few of the common questions that I've been getting on social media. Lots of these are questions I was getting in comments on my bulking post, but also some of these are from Q&As I've been doing on my stories. So let's just go into a little bit more detail about all these. So question number one, what is the objective of a bulk? The objective of a bulk is to help you put on more muscle mass. So how we do this is we eat above our maintenance. And in case you don't know what this means, your maintenance calories are the amount of calories you need to be eating in a day to maintain your current weight. Every day, your body burns a certain number of calories. This is going to differ from person to person. It depends on things like your age, your weight, your height, your genetics, how often you work out, how often you walk, etc., etc. So let's say you burn 2,000 calories a day. That's your total daily energy expenditure. And that takes into account all the calories you burn from exercise, walking, fidgeting, like everything you do. Now, if you wanted to maintain your current weight, you would eat around 2,000 calories. This is called your maintenance calories because your energy out is going to be matching your energy in. You are going to be achieving energy balance and therefore maintaining your weight. Now, in a bulk, we actually are going to be eating slightly above our maintenance. We're eating a little bit more than we are burning intentionally. And the reason why we do this, the objective, is because when we have more fuel coming into our body, that fuel can be used towards protein synthesis, aka the building of muscle mass. And indirectly, that surplus of fuel we are getting is also going to help give us more available energy in the gym that we can use towards our lifts and therefore push harder on our lifts, which is then going to lead to us building more muscle as well. So it kind of goes twofold. The extra fuel helps to optimize protein synthesis, but the extra fuel also helps you to push harder in the gym and therefore progressive overload more efficiently and therefore build more muscle. Second question, do I have to do a bulk to build muscle? No, you do not need to do a bulk to build muscle. I really want to emphasize this point. I feel like this is something people get a little bit confused about. They assume that the only way to build muscle is to do a bulk and that's their only option, and this could not be further from the truth. The first bulk I've ever completed in my life was this one that I just completed this past September 2023. And I feel like I still had a fair good amount of muscle on my body before completing that bulk. However, bulking does put your body in the most adequate environment for muscle building. With that said, you can still build muscle in a calorie deficit and you can certainly still build muscle at maintenance. If you are a newbie specifically to the gym, you could literally be eating in a calorie deficit and you will still put on muscle because you are going to experience something called newbie gains, where basically because you are new to the gym, everything you do is going to lead to adaptations. It's not really something you need to be thinking about right at the beginning. You can literally just focus on getting into the gym, starting training overall, and just eating at maintenance, eating in a deficit if you want to lose some body fat, and you'll see some muscle growth. But the more advanced you get, it does get a little bit harder to build muscle in a deficit. So you either want to be sitting at maintenance or maybe eventually consider going into a building phase. So it's not that it's essential. You can still build muscle in a deficit or at maintenance, but a build puts your body in the most adequate state to put on muscle mass. Third question, what goes first, the bulk or the cut? So there's not really a one-size-fits-all answer to this question because it's going to depend on the individual and where they're starting from. But my basic rule of thumb is don't do a build until you are at a place where you are very comfortable and confident in the level of body fat that you currently have. What I mean by this is if you want to lose 50 pounds of body fat, and that's like your biggest priority is losing some body fat, it's probably not going to be the best idea to go into a building phase right now. You want to attack the biggest priority first. So if your health is going to be far better improved by losing body fat, then just focus on going into a calorie deficit first. You know, still training in the gym, still eating sufficient amounts of protein, but losing that body fat first. Once you are in a place where you are very comfortable with your current weight and you're in a place where it would be healthy and comfortable for you to put on a little bit of extra body fat in a build, then that's when you can start thinking about going into a build / bulk. But let's say that you are actually starting already at a place where you are quite lean, you're quite healthy, maybe you're even a little bit underweight, then you can absolutely do a bulk first, right? There's no reason to cut more if you're already pretty lean, healthy, and comfortable with what your current weight is. So if that's you, then you could go ahead, go into a bulk, 6 to 8 months later, do your cut. In my case, when I started my bulk, I was in a place where I was very comfortable with my current body weight. I was healthy, I was quite lean, and I was in a place mentally as well where I was comfortable putting on a little bit of body fat. So that's why I did my bulk first, and then I did my cut, which I'm doing right now. Next question, what were my calories and macros in the cut versus the bulk? So I kind of already went over the bulk calories at the beginning of the video, but just to recap, I was bulking between 23 to 2,500 calories throughout the 7 months. My protein goal was 145 grams per day as like my minimum protein goal. And then my minimum fat goal was 60 grams a day just to ensure optimal hormone and brain health. And then whatever calories I had left over, once I hit my protein and fat minimums, I could spend on carbs or a combination of more protein, more fats, or carbs. Now for the cut, we started at 1,950 calories, but pretty early on, we realized that that wasn't really leading to any significant reductions in the scale. So we lowered it down to 1,850, which is my current calorie deficit goal right now. My protein and fat goals are basically the same as during the bulk. So I'm aiming for around minimum 145 grams of protein a day and minimum 50 to 60 grams of fats per day. The rest of my calories I usually spend on carbs or like carbs and fats. Keep in mind, this is just what's working for me and my goals. This might not be what works well for you, so don't compare. I'm just sharing for kind of like curiosity's sake because a lot of people have been asking. I did also increase my daily steps quite a bit. So throughout the bulk, for a majority of the months, I was probably walking around like 4,000 to 5,000 steps a day, which I know is not great. But like I said, I was going through some really busy work seasons, so I just wasn't really walking as much as I maybe should have been. But now I am walking 8,000 steps a day, so that is my current step goal. I'm also doing 2 30-minute cardio sessions per week on top of my 4 weightlifting workouts. Last question, how long will you be cutting for? So loosely speaking, we are aiming for about 10 to 12 weeks. I do really hope to be done by like within the first couple of weeks of July 2024 so I can reverse diet and go back to maintenance for peak summer because I live in Vancouver and July and August are our nicest months here. It's also when I tend to have the most social events going on. So I'll be going to more restaurants, maybe going away on some weekends. Me and my boyfriend like to do a lot of lake days. So I just don't want to feel like I am restricted peak summer because that's not going to work super well for me. Okay, that brings me to the end of the video. I hope you guys found this interesting, helpful, inspiring. If you have any follow-up questions or comments, please feel free to comment down below. And if there's any other videos on this topic that you would like me to make a video on, also just let me know. And I'll see you guys in the next one.